It is turn 10 and you are stuck. Just stuck. Locked in a game that refuses to move. A couple of board wipes came down one after another, and now every turn is just draw, groan, pass. You're not alone in this, as each of your friends are just as dejected. It even creates a feedback loop. The apathy turns to distractions, phones, outside conversations, which then leads to people taking slower turns, which leads to more apathy. On and on the spiral goes, the game that never ends. Sometimes, Magic is just boring. When this happens, you'd trade any card in your hand for something that gets the table re-engaged. Something that makes people laugh, smile, and draws them back from their distractions into the game again. These are the cards I want to talk about today, so let's discuss some of the mini-games of Magic. Do you like gambling? Are you the kind of person who will sit there, steely-gazed, and stare the dealer down while the tension rises? Then I have the card for you. Dance with Calamity. This is an 8-mana red sorcery that challenges your risk assessment. First, you shuffle your deck. Then, you exile cards from the top of the deck face up any number of times. You may cast any and all spells you hit for free, but if the total mana value of those spells is over 13, then instead you get to cast none of them. Many of you will immediately recognize this as blackjack, and you're right. In blackjack, the objective is to get as close to a total of 21 amongst your cards without going over. We call going over this number busting. Although the magic number here is 13, the philosophy is the same. You want to get the highest number you can without busting. Here, however, you're not playing against a table of opponents, but instead against your own opportunity cost. Like we said before, it's 8 mana to dance. That's a lot, but the rewards can be well worth it. It not only has the potential to profit you 5 more mana, but also a lot of card advantage. The lower your mana curve is, the higher the likelihood that you're churning through many cards in a row. And remember that every land you hit doesn't count. You might effectively be drawing 10 or more cards, and the dance can dig you out of a long span of mana flood in the late game when you really need to be hitting bombs instead of lands. So let's talk about how to get the most out of this thing. You might think, oh, do some top deck manipulation. But remember, the first line of this card is to shuffle your deck. You can't usually put spells or abilities onto the stack while in the middle of resolving an effect, and Dance with Calamity is all one effect. This makes it exceedingly difficult to cheat. We're going to have to play this one by the book. The safest way to go about this is the ad nauseum trick. This is where you look at your deck and memorize the most expensive card in the list. Then, if you ever total an amount where it would bust you if you hit that card, you stop. Let's say your priciest card is 6 mana. As soon as you total 8 or higher, you stop immediately, because if you were to reveal a 6 mana card, you would bust. This guarantees you will never fail, and will always get at least some value out of your cast. If you want to play it a bit fast and loose, then you're into risk analysis. For this, cheaper is better. Having a lot of cheap and free cards in your deck will allow you to more reliably approach 13 without immediately failing. You can also just use this to instantly exile your deck. The game doesn't stop you from hitting when you go over 13. It just stops you from casting the spells, so you can pivot into using this like a makeshift demonic consultation. The effect on the table this card has is incredible. You're sitting there, flipping cards, while your friends are chanting hit, hit, hit every time, and it's impossible to tell who's trying to trick you into busting versus who's just really feeling the spirit. It's not the most interactive effect, but it gives the game a huge shot of adrenaline. They say the grass is always greener on the other side. It's easy to covet the things your opponents have. Someone resolves an early Zakama, and all of a sudden, the stuff in your own hand doesn't look nearly as appetizing. Well, how about this? Let's play a game of Who Wants That Dinosaur the Most? We can achieve this with Avarice Totem. It's a 1-mana artifact with a single activated ability. You can pay 5 mana to exchange control of Avarice Totem with another non-land permanent. I love this card. The game immediately halts and begins to revolve around the biggest, stompiest Timmy pieces on the board. Elish Norn must be very flattered watching everybody fight over her. So you take someone's thing. Then, they have the opportunity to take back your thing, or they can grab someone else's. You then get into a game of spite, where you might want to grab your old thing back even if it's not the best target for you, because it's supposed to be yours and you hate seeing it go. It also doesn't really feel that bad to get targeted by. because as soon as you give something up, you get to be the next person to decide where the totem goes. If the design were any different, it wouldn't be nearly as effective at causing chaos. If the card took more than 1 mana to play, it wouldn't really be worth casting in the first place. If it were cheaper to activate, it wouldn't be worth thinking about your activations as much, and would probably lead to 2 players just trading the biggest thing back and forth. If it could only be activated as a sorcery, then it would be harder to stop plays and win conditions with it. So what's the best way to use the totem? I like to treat it like it's not in play at all. Set it out to grab something middling, not the biggest thing at the table, and watch your opponents cannibalize their own mana every turn, trading it back and forth. Keep playing middling threats until you are way ahead by virtue of mana. You can also use it to bully the threats in people's hands. Stick it in front of you and just sit on it. Everybody knows the moment they play something big, you're going to steal it, so their problem cards will stay stranded in their hands. Then we have some cheese strats. Activate the totem twice, once targeting a garbage card on your own board, and then the next time targeting a good card of an opponent with less than 5 mana open. The second activation resolves first, giving you their card, and then the other activation resolves, giving them your garbage card, and returning the totem. The opponent can activate it again while they have control of it though, and that's why I say to make sure they don't have 5 mana open. I feel like red's been getting too much attention, so let's spread the love around. Capricopian is 1 green and X for a 0/0 goat hydra. You know the deal with hydras, it enters with X+1/+1 counters on it, but that second ability is where the fun happens. While Capricopian is attacking, the defending player can pay 2 mana to put a counter on the goat and reselect which player it's attacking. It cannot attack its controller. This is hilarious. You swing once with it, and all of a sudden, everyone is looking around at the mana on the board, trying to figure out how many activations they can duke it out against. So anyone who is out of mana is an easy pick, since they'll be unable to redirect it away from themselves back to you. The activations being only 2 mana really helps this get the table involved. It's unlikely anybody doesn't have the mana to be able to participate, since the bar to entry is rather low. It also punishes players who are pushing ahead. If you're drawing cards and generating resources, you probably want to be sinking your mana into developing your own board. Do this, ignoring the goat, and you'll almost certainly be its target. It's hard to go wrong with this card, since the controller can't be assigned as the defender, but there are still some small things to watch out for. That X in the mana cost isn't just for show. It is very important that you try and make this the biggest thing on the battlefield. If you don't, a truce will form where your opponents agree to ram the goat into something too big for it to survive. Pump a lot of mana into your Capricopian. Another piece of advice is try to give him evasion. The game of who blocks the goat does not matter nearly as much when the worst that can happen is someone chumps with their land war elves. Finally, be sure to inform your friends that they can hold priority and activate the Capricopian multiple times in a row. This will let them really pour damage onto anybody incapable of ditching the attack. This is the sort of card that helps people get engaged when it isn't their turn. Absent-mindedly spending all of your mana and then hopping onto your phone will have you taking heavy damage as soon as the goat swings. If your goal is to stop people from falling asleep at the wheel, then Capricopian will get the job done. I love Secret Council. Like the Prisoner's Dilemma, it's a mechanic that asks everyone to make hidden votes that are revealed all at once, which means it practically begs players to lie to each other. Of them, I think Mob Verdict is my favorite. 4 mana for a sorcery that asks everyone to vote for a player. Then, assuming you cast it, you draw a card for each vote for you. Meanwhile, your opponents and their creatures each take 2 damage for each vote for them. So the way this ends up playing out is that you are probably never drawing cards off of this. Why would a player choose to benefit an opponent of theirs when they could choose to harm a different opponent instead? Everybody is just going to be burning each other's boards. The question is, whose? Alliances will be made, arguments proposed, and math totaled up on how to best burn out the creatures causing the most issues. But again, your choices are made in secret. There's opportunity here for deception. Players can say whatever they want, but what they end up writing down on their little sheets of paper is all that matters. There are plenty of creatures that 2 damage will kill in this game, and so throwing a single vote someone's way can often rid them of at least a couple of bodies. What's more is that the player who cast the verdict is incentivized not to join in on the negotiations. They can't take the damage from it, so they're better off waiting and seeing what people say they're going to do in order to get the most information before before voting. Against token and aggro strategies, this can sometimes be a one-sided board wipe that leaves you unscathed while your opponents have to pick up the pieces. The thing about most asymmetrical board wipes though is that they incur a lot of aggro. When you resolve a ruinous ultimatum, from then on, your opponents are banding together against you. With Mob Verdict though, there's a good chance that the social aftermath of the vote leads to enough infighting that you can escape from the aggro you probably should have incurred. It's a great way to weasel yourself out of an unfavorable board state while blaming your opponents for the outcome. Magic is not always fun. There's mana flood, mana screw, variance, and a whole host of other issues that can turn a snappy back and forth into a do-nothing slog out of nowhere. While it's very satisfying to work your way out of these dire straits, I also don't think there's anything wrong with intentionally splashing in a little bit of silliness into your deck to directly attack apathy. Sure, Dance with Calamity might not often be an optimal card, but I think watching everyone's faces light up as I put it onto the stack is worth the cost. How much mana would you pay to make someone smile? If you have a Magic minigame card you like to play, then please, share it down in the comments below. Any longtime fans know this is secretly part 3 to my Games Within Games series, but YouTube's algorithm does not like series for some reason, so we're keeping that on the hush-hush. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you liked it or shared it with a friend. That helps it circulate, and who knows, maybe it'll influence your friends to play some goofy cards too. If you enjoyed the video's format, subscribe in order to be in the loop when I upload. I have a Discord where we get together for game nights, and a Blue Sky where I post wistfully about the ye olde days of Magic. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful rest of your day.